Alright, hi everybody, and welcome back to another video. This is Blink or Steve, take your pick. And today I wanted to cover the stuff that I'm looking to pick up at the Midwest Gaming Classic in 2019, which I will be attending. Midwest Gaming Classic isn't too far away from where I live. It's a short, kind of half-day road trip. And it's been a tradition for the last couple years now to go and treat it kind of as like my big shopping day for the year. I mean, I'm looking all throughout the year for things that I'm interested in, but Midwest Gaming Classic is kind of something that I set aside a little bit of money for so I can do some fun shopping. And so I thought it would be fun, after being inspired by a couple other people here on YouTube, to go through the things that I want to pick up. And rather than do like a top 5 or a top 10 things that I'm looking for, I thought it would be fun to go sort of system by system. What's the one thing that I most want on that system? So I have a list here of most of my systems. This isn't everything, but most of my systems and what kind of the number one thing I'm looking to pick up on that system is. And then maybe here in a pickup video when I get back, when I show what I picked up there, we can see how many of these things I was able to track down. Some of them I definitely don't expect to find at the show, and some of them can get a little bit up there in price, and so there's no way I could get everything on this entire list by any means. But yeah, let's just kind of run through it and see what I'm most looking to pick up. All right, so the first system that I wanted to cover is the 32X. This list is kind of mostly alphabetical by system, with the list is mostly in a random order. But for the 32X, the game that I'm most looking for is Blackthorn. I have a small collection of 32X games, and I have most of what I really want, but Blackthorn has always looked like a cool puzzle platformer, and I've heard that that version on the 32X is the best one, so that's probably the game that I'd most likely pick up for the 32X. On the Xbox 360, honestly, there's not a lot that I'm still looking for in the Xbox 360. I have most of the games that I've wanted to pick up over time, but I would say that there are some Japanese vertical and horizontal shooters that I'm looking for. Things like Espgaluda 2 or Mushi Mushi Pork Pink Sweets, I think is the name of it. And if I happen to come across any of those, that's probably the only thing on 360 I would end up picking up. As I go through the list here, most of these don't have any Japanese games on it. I kind of left out games that didn't come out in the North American region because I kind of assume I'm not going to find stuff like that. There is always a small import presence at the Midwest Gaming Classic, 1 or 2 big booths, but there's not much that I've ever found there outside of kind of common Saturn games, and so I don't think that I'd really find most of what I'm looking for. And so this is mostly the North American releases. All right, next up is 3DO. A lot of weird, interesting games I'm looking for in the 3DO, but more than anything, I think I'd really like to pick up a copy of Cyberdillo. I don't know what I can do to explain Cyberdillo to you. Just try to look up some screenshots or some gameplay footage or something. That game looks weird. On the 3DS, there really isn't much that I'm planning on picking up. I put 3DS on here, but 3DS, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, I don't really look for the newer stuff that you can find still in stores at the Midwest Gaming Classic. It's more of a retro shopping experience for me, so I don't think I would pick anything up on the 3DS unless I really came across something awesome. On the Dreamcast, there are still a couple of shooters that I want on the Dreamcast, but probably the game I would be most interested in picking up is Power Stone 2. Huge fan of the first Power Stone, and I've heard that the second one is just as good, so Power Stone 2 would probably be the Dreamcast game of choice. Getting into the Game Boys. On the original Game Boy, again, a ton of awesome options that I could choose. A lot of role-playing games and action role-playing games that I'm interested in, but I think the one I'm going to look for the most is going to be Final Fantasy Legend 2. I have Final Fantasy Legend 3. I actually grew up playing that game, and I've never played Final Fantasy Legend 2, and it always kind of feels like it's this hole in my Game Boy library, so I will be looking to pick up Final Fantasy Legend 2 so that 3 kind of has its friend back. On Game Boy Color, I was torn between a couple, but I landed on Revelations: The Demon Slayer. It's an Atlas role-playing game that has always looked really fun that I'd love to give a shot to. Although a close runner-up to Revelations: Demon Slayer would be Lufia for the Game Boy Color, which is one of the only Lufia games that I haven't played yet. On the Game Boy Advance, again, There were a couple of the Banjo games that I'm really looking for, like Banjo Pilot and things like that, but the winner for Game Boy Advance is going to be Pinball of the Dead. I love virtual pinball games, and this game has always looked awesome. I love the concept of House of the Dead meets pinball, so hopefully I can track that one down. GameCube, weird one here. I have been looking forever for a copy of Tube Slider, the Championship of Future Formula, which probably is a game most people haven't even heard of. It looks sort of like an F-Zero copycat. It has that same kind of near or like future cyber speed racing type vibe to it. And even though I know it's not going to be as good as F-Zero GX, it just looks so interesting. And even though it's not like a really expensive game, I just never come across it, at least in the stores locally here. So hopefully I can track down Tube Slider. All right, Sega Genesis. For the Sega Genesis, this is a big one, but I would like to pick up a copy of Musha. I have a good number of these shoot-em-ups on the Genesis, and Musha is probably the biggest one that I'm missing. I mean, obviously it's the biggest one that I'm missing. It's the biggest one. But Musha would be awesome to track down, although it would have to be at a pretty decent price for me to pick it up, or in really good condition. Game Gear, there's no way I'm going to find any Game Gear games complete in box there. There's never Game Boy or Game Gear games complete in box anywhere. But the one I would like more than anything is Tempo Junior. I love Tempo on the 32X, and Tempo Junior just seems like more fun on the Game Gear. So hopefully I can track that down. If not, a copy of the Game Gear version of Rise Star would be really cool. On the Gizmondo, I do have a Gizmondo. I do like playing the Gizmondo from time to time. I want to track down a copy of Toy Golf. It won't be there, but I want to track down a copy of Toy Golf. And the Jaguar, the role-playing game Towers 2 seems really interesting. Again, I don't anticipate much Jaguar stuff being there, but if I do happen to come across someone selling maybe their Jaguar collection piecemeal, Towers 2 is the one that I would most look forward to. Seems like a cool dungeon crawling role-playing game. The Nintendo 64. I want to get my copy of Harvest Moon 64. So some friends of mine have put together sort of a list of games that we all put in recommendations on, and then all of us are playing through the entirety of the list. So it's a list of like 30 games. We each put in 10 games, and we're all playing through it. And there's some other rules that I don't really want to go into right here, but on that list is Harvest Moon 64, put on by a friend of mine, and I've never played Harvest Moon 64. I've actually never played really any Harvest Moon for any significant amount of time, and so I hear from most people that Harvest Moon 64 is the best one, so it being on the list as well just makes this the perfect opportunity to pick it up so I can play it. On the Nintendo DS, there's a fighting game put out by Atlas, I believe, called Draglade. This has been on my wish list for such a long time, and I've just never come across it, so the game seems cool, but this one, more than most, I would just like to get knocked off the list. On the original Nintendo, there's not a specific game I'm really looking for, but I do collect all my systems complete in box, and the original Nintendo is one of the only systems that I still have a decent amount of loose carts on, because a lot of them came from my sister when I was growing up with her, so a lot of them have just always been loose cart. And so for the NES, what I want to find is some of the boxes and manuals to match those carts, the boxes in particular. I have a list on my phone of all the games I have loose and all the components I still need. So hopefully I can track down some of those. I still need some fairly obvious ones like Legend of Zelda, Contra, Castlevania, stuff like that. N-Gage. I am sort of loosely going for a complete N-Gage collection, so I guess I'd like to pick up whatever I can find, but the game I'm most interested in playing that I don't have is System Rush. Again, kind of a Wipeout style racing game. Seems really cool. For the Neo Geo Pocket Color, Gal's Fighter. Seems like an awesome fighting game featuring the women from the SNK franchises. That one is not cheap and not easy to come by, so I don't really anticipate finding it, but that would be cool. The Nuon. Yes, the Nuon. Tempest 3000. I actually have a Nuon. and I don't have Tempest 3000, which is sort of like why own a new one at all if you don't own Tempest 3000. And so, yeah, hopefully I can track that one down. Again, I would be really surprised if anyone had any new one stuff at the Midwest Gaming Classic. For PlayStation, the most wanted PS1 game is going to be Mega Man Legends. For some reason, I still don't own a copy of Mega Man Legends. I've passed up dozens of them, just it has either never been the right price or the right condition. And Mega Man Legends is one of the games that's on that list that I mentioned earlier, along with Harvest Moon 64. So yeah, hopefully I can finally track down a copy of the first Mega Man Legends. For PlayStation 2, I have a lot of the stuff I want for PlayStation 2, but there's a game that I would like to track down that is also on that list again, and that's Ape Escape 2. I played the first Ape Escape, I love it. I have the third Ape Escape, but I don't have the second one, so hopefully I can find that one. For PlayStation 3, there's a first-person shooter called Painkiller, Hell, and Damnation. This game is absurdly hard to come by, and unfortunately recently got pretty pricey too, so I don't really expect to find or pick it up, but there's really not much left on PS3 that I want that isn't an import, and so Painkiller is probably the one that I most want to track down on PS3. PlayStation Portable, PSP. There is a lot of good tactical role-playing games on PSP, and one of them that I don't have is Ragnarok Tactics. So to keep up with the tradition of all those awesome strategy RPGs, tactical RPGs, hopefully I can find a copy of Ragnarok Tactics. For the Saturn, a couple of games that I want for the Saturn still, but probably the most likely one that I really want and also expect I could maybe find is Legend of Oasis. I played Beyond Oasis on Sega Genesis last year or the year before, and I loved it. If I had played that game as a kid, I would have been head over heels for that entire franchise. But after playing Beyond Oasis, I'd love to track down a copy of Legend of Oasis so I could keep playing through that series. On the Sega CD, there's a cool looking platformer called Flink. Love to track down a copy of Flink. There's also a lot of cool FMV like Road Avenger, Return of the Ninja, is that what it's called? Revenge of the Ninja? Some of those types of games would be cool to track down too, but I think Flink is the one that I would most want to find. For the Master System, I'd like to get a copy of Power Strike. That's a shoot 'em up that's on the Master System. Pretty hard one to come by because I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was never sold in stores. It might have been a mail away. I guess I shouldn't say that for certain and spread misinformation, but it is a very difficult game to come by either way, and so one that I probably don't expect to see, but if I do, awesome. I'd love to get Power Strike. Super Nintendo. So many games to pick from that I still want on Super Nintendo, but sticking with the theme of that list that the friends and I are playing through, one of the games on there is Soul Blazer, and I don't have a copy. I've always wanted a copy, so Soul Blazer it is. Soul Blazer is the one I hope to track down. There is actually one game on Super Nintendo that I don't have the box and manual for too. It's actually Mario Paint, the big box. So if I found just like an empty box, that would be awesome too. But since it is a big box, I don't know that people will be selling it out piecemeal. And might be kind of rough to lug back with me too. So we'll see. On the TurboGrafx, Newtopia, which is a Zelda-style game, looks colorful and fun and cute. And hopefully I can find a copy, although I looked for it the last couple of Midwest Gaming Classics. Even before I had a TurboGrafx, I was looking for it because I knew when I got a TurboGrafx, I would want to play that game. And I still haven't been able to track down a copy. I know it was on Virtual Console for a while and stuff too, but I guess I just never really got around to it. And so I'm still sort of on the hunt for that one, Newtopia. On the Vectrex, really anything on the Vectrex. It's another system that I kind of want the entire library for. So I'm looking for anything I don't already have, as long as it has the overlay with it. If I had to pick one game in particular, it's probably Spike, which is sort of a single screen platformer with some synthesized voices in it. Pretty cool game. I've watched some footage and some reviews of that one, and it looks really fun. So hopefully I can find a copy of Spike, or really any Vectrex game would be cool. And finally, the original Xbox. There is a super cheap platformer called Torque the Prehistoric Punk. That's another one that I've been looking for forever locally. Just haven't tracked it down. hopefully someone has it in their dollar bin that I can finally pick that game up and check it out and play through it. If not, Stubbs the Zombie would be a great runner-up for the original Xbox. And yeah, that is my rapid-fire list of most of the major systems I own and the games that I'm most looking for those systems at Midwest Gaming Classic. Again, we'll see how well I did when I do my pickups video after the event. But now we know at least kind of one game per system that I can try to focus on and track down. So if you are going to Midwest Gaming Classic, that's awesome. Hopefully I see you there. And if you are, let me know in the comments what it is that you are looking to pick up. And if not, then I will just see you in the next video where it'll probably be a few videos from now where I go over Midwest Gaming Classic. There might be one or two that come out in between now and then. So hopefully I see you in the next video. If not, I'll see you for the recap of what I picked up at Midwest Gaming Classic in a couple weeks. Thanks. Bye.